Monday, I get to get back to work.
What is going on, guys? This is the Empowered People Podcast, Tuesday Tune-Up, where you know what we're going to do. We're going to focus on more stories, give less advice. I'm your host, Josh Levin, and this is episode 223, Think While Moving. Guys, thanks a ton for tuning in. If you don't know, my name is Josh Levin. I'm the founder of a commercial electric company called Empowered Electric. We make Kansas City brighter one light bulb at a time, dad jokes included. But it's been fun, man. It's been a really, really busy week. We've been locking down projects. We've been locking down customers. We've been locking down new employees. Like, all things Empowered Electric are going great. And so I freaking rolled in here. Derek has the podcast studio set up. We got conference room stuff going on, so we can't film where we normally do. And I'm all jazzed up, but I'm lucky, right? I'm not wanting to slam a beer to calm down. I'm not wanting to let my brain get foggy, but I had a mango hop water. I think we've talked about these before. Man, I found them on Instagram. It is a non-alcoholic beverage with apogens and nootropics. Now, I don't know if I said either of them gosh darn words right, but they will be a proud sponsor of the Empowered People Podcast. These things are absolutely delicious. I have mango right now. I'm going to take another drink so I can try to calm down and get focused on today's episode, because this is a really cool one. I'm talking about a really cool guy, one of my favorite people on planet Earth, one of the dudes that's taught me more things than he probably will ever realize. So bear with me for a second. ASMR, is that where people make funny noises in videos? Derek's in here with me, hanging out. But guys, I think I've talked about Seth Galbraith before. If you don't know, he's saved in my phone as the legend. He's one of the greatest electricians. He's an amazing man. He's an amazing father, brother, just an all-around G.I. Joe kind of dude. In the electrical world in Kansas City, he's known. His reputation does precede him. Just his skill, his drive, his integrity, everything about him is amazing. And I remember a very, very key lesson that he said to me. He said, think while moving. And I'll tell you the story behind that. As I was coming through the ranks, he was always encouraging to me. He was always teaching me so many things. He would take time to explain something to me or show it or draw a little diagram. But so much of what I learned from him was through watching him, right? And honestly, competing against him. He probably didn't realize it, but I was always racing him. Kind of like, you know, when you go to the gym, like Planet Fitness, and you get on a treadmill and somebody else gets on the treadmill. Bro, you might not think we're racing. You get in the sauna and I get on the sauna at the same time. It's a race to see who's going to cave first, right? And so I would constantly be racing him. He probably had no idea. And one time we were on a particular project and he wasn't the foreman of this project, so he was just working with his tools on. He actually got out of the truck wearing his tools one time, blew my brain away. He lived like an hour away, shows up at the job site, gets out of the truck wearing a tool belt. I'm like, this guy, he's a freak, right? He's the legend. And so we're in the same area and there's all these rooms and we have to rough in conduit. So we're gonna mount these big electrical boxes and run all these pipes together. And if you're a good electrician, you should be able to run about 250 foot of pipe a day. At least that's what I was always told coming through my apprenticeship. And so, you know, I'm getting my material set up. He's getting his material set up. I'm getting my plan together. He's getting his plan together. And I start, you know, throwing up pipe. I'm gonna beat Seth today. I know Seth is known as a great runner of conduit. I'm going to beat him today. Now, I didn't tell him, right? So, cause I'm not going to race him. I'm letting him, you know, I'm going to try to sneak attack him, right? And so the day's going along. We start at 7:00 and about 9:45, I'm throwing up some conduit, dude. My pace is flawless. Like, I'm going to blow 250 foot out of the water. And at 9:45, he takes off his belt and I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm not taking break. I have like a foreman's meeting that James wants me to go to. I got to go look at some things with James for this foreman's meeting. And I'm like, ha, sucker, right? Pedal to the metal. I am going to blow past him. And I don't even care if he's going to count 15 minutes off doing something else. I don't care. Well, it wasn't 15 minutes. He was gone for about 45 minutes from about 9:45 to 10:30. I don't care, bro. I'm just throwing up conduit. I'm freaking setting boxes, you know, and it was, dude, I'm doing this because it was compression couplings. It wasn't set screws. It's a little bit harder, but I'm like, dude, I'm freaking Billy the Kid over here with my tool bags. And we're running on this pipe. Well, he works from 10:30 to about 11:30, and he pulls out his little blue lunchbox, little igloo with the square that you can sit on. He sits on he starts eating his sandwich and reading his book, always reads every day. And I'm like, nope, this is a no lunch day for ya boy. I am smashing Seth. Pedal to the metal, I am still going to smash it, right? And so I just keep running conduit. And he kind of tells me, hey, Josh, it's lunchtime. And I'm like, I know, I'm just in a groove. I ain't stopping. And so I'm just killing myself all day, right? And at the end of the day, it's about 3:30 and I get done and I'm like tallying up my conduit and I'm like, boom, baby, 390 feet. I freaking crushed it, right? I'm like pounding my chest, honey badger. I did it. I didn't know who the honey badger was back then, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm feeling good. There ain't no way Seth, the living legend, beat me today. So I get done and I'm like, hey, Seth, how much pipe did you run today? 415 feet. What bull crap? That ain't true. Seth, you didn't run 415 foot of conduit today? And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, I ran 390 foot. I freaking worked through break. I worked through lunch. And he's like, well, you can count my conduit up. So I was like, I'm a little pissed. He doesn't realize, he's just now realizing I was racing him. He's just now realizing I'm trying to one up him. And he kind of smirks and he's like, you can go count my conduit. I go over there, count it up. Sure enough, 415 foot of conduit beats me by 25 feet. Leaving for 45 minutes for a foreman's meeting, leaving for lunch, reading a book, and I still get beat. Reading a book, and I still get beat, right? I probably pissed myself. I probably didn't take a bathroom break. I was that committed and still got beat. And I'm like huffing and puffing, and he's kind of smirking, and I said, dude, how are you so fast? I just don't understand. Like, I gave it everything. How are you so fast? And he said, you always have to think while moving. And I remember it stuck in my brain, right? Think while moving. And I want to stop for just a second and just kind of unpack that a little bit because it really frustrated me when he said it because I was a hard worker. But I was like, what do you mean? And what he said is, man, at the very beginning, you got to start with what you know. And what he was talking about is like at the very start of the day, like here I am looking at the blueprint, trying to get the most perfect plan, right? I'm trying to optimize my day. On my picture perfect day, what time do I wake up? And okay, so I'm going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning every morning, and then I'm going to meditate for 20 minutes. And then after I meditate, my tea is going to be boiled. And then I'm going to sauna and read the daily scriptures. And I have this perfect day, planned out exactly how it's supposed to be, right? What does Mike Tyson say? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So rather than starting with this foolproof, picture perfect plan, he said, always realize that you have limited knowledge. So start with what you know. And so what you know is all the receptacles are at 18 inches to center. So go put in all the boxes for your receptacles. Then all the switches are 18 inches from the door on the knob side, not the hinge side. Go put in all the switches. Start with the very basic rudimentary things that you know to gain momentum into the next task. Where I was always trying to start with the plan and start with all my questions getting answered, he was okay with taking care of what he knew and getting to later what he didn't know, right? This is a very big thing in like test taking. Everybody don't get hung up on the question you don't know. Instead, rush through really quick. I did this on my journeyman exam. Rush through the 100 questions really quick and answer all the ones that you know real quick, 60 of them or so that you can spend more time on the hard things. So Seth was always okay with starting with limited knowledge, is what he said. And he always said, dude, it's okay. You don't have to know how to get from point A to B if you know point A and B, right? He knew that he was trying to rough in and connect all the boxes. He didn't have to start by thinking about how he was going to connect all the boxes. He knew that he was going to install boxes and connect boxes with conduits. And he didn't allow himself to get just bogged down in all the details. Some details will figure themselves out. They'll shake themselves out. So he said, start with what you know. Start with what you have. Okay, so as I was roughing it in, I wanted the perfect bracket for every box in every situation, where he would just use spreader brackets for every single thing. And it really just reminded me of like, if you're going to make dinner tonight, is it better to start with the recipe that you want or the food that you have? Right? Is it better to open a cookbook or open your refrigerator? The easy answer is open your refrigerator and see, oh, we have chicken that's about to go bad. We need to use that. Oh, we have asparagus that Josh bought. I told him to buy 2. He bought 17. We better eat some asparagus, right? It's better to start with what you have than starting with what you want. And that's a very big thing when you're building a business or you're trying to advance. It's like so for example, you want to get promoted. You want that job with that you're gonna delegate a team of 7 people and have this awesome customer. Man, I want this customer with this team, but instead you have this customer with these 2 people that report to you or 1 person. Is it better to like piss and moan about what you don't have, or learn to take ownership and learn to develop leadership and learn to develop trust and produce a high quality result with what you have? Start with what you have, not with what you don't have, okay? Tools. Right? He was saying, start with what you have, tools. Like if you don't have a hammer drill, you just have an impact drill, then use an impact drill, or vice versa. The thing that always struck me about Seth, right, is I've heard this phrase that a clean uniform doesn't make an officer, and the tools don't make a craftsman. And Seth had the cheapest piece of junk, crappiest tools I had ever seen in my life. They were like, I don't even know if they were battery operated. They were such garbage. And here I was, like, had the 24 volt lithium ion, DeWalt, Sawzall, and all these different things. And he's like, hey man, sometimes what you have, like your tools, your skills, might not be as good as other people, but that doesn't mean you're going to lose. And so just because someone started a business before you and has more experience, just because they have a greater editing software, just because they have more connections, just because they have all these things outside of them, doesn't mean that they have a greater drive than you, that they have greater endurance than you, that they want it more than you. Because Seth didn't care about his tools. He focused on what he had inside of him, which was that skill and that drive and that character that he just knew how to accomplish things. And I just think each and every one of you, if you stopped thinking about what you don't have or what you should have or what you could have, and you started with what you had, both from a material and a tool standpoint, you could build something beautiful in your life. The last thing he wanted to point out about thinking while moving, okay, start with what you know, start with what you have, but it's easier to see an obstacle from a different point of view, it's easier to see the obstacle from the top. And so I remember as I was running the conduits and as I was running home runs, there were a lot of big metal I-beams, right? These big beams like this. And there was all this ductwork that ran underneath the I-beams that was causing me all these problems where I'm like, how am I going to get around that? And how am I going to twist and turn and all this, that, and the other? But once you got up on the ladder, you realize that the I-beam stopped here and then the ductwork started here. So there was this gap of space right here where you could run your conduits through. And he just said, like, sometimes when you're standing on the ground, you're standing where you've always been, you're looking at things how you've always looked at them, it's going to seem impossible how you're going to get through. It's going to seem impossible how you're going to get over this mountain or under this beam or whatever it's going to be. This is just going to be too hard. But if you're able to climb a ladder, look at something from a different point of view, have someone, boost you up on their shoulders and take a look from a different direction, you're going to realize that there's a little bit more gap, there's a little bit more give, there's a little bit more opportunity than what you originally thought, that you originally were giving yourself credit for, that you were originally believing. So I don't think I ever beat Seth Galbraith at any conduit race or any wire pulling or any device makeup or anything in the world. But I think that's really beside the point. I think it was through competing against him, and not only competing against him, but like learning from him, that not only is he the legend, but he made me a better electrician. He made me a better man. And now I know what it means to think while moving. I start with what I know. I start with what I have, and I try to always see things from a different point of view.
Hey, shine like gold. They don't want story, man, they want the soundbite. I'm like, no, look around like they see you on the mountain, they don't see you on the climb.